I never thought my heart would skip a beat in a grocery store. But there she was, standing in the middle of the cereal aisle like she belonged to a different world, her cart halfway full and her 2 kids bouncing around her like little planets orbiting the sun. Her son, maybe 6 or 7, tugged at her sleeve, his energy buzzing like a firecracker. Her daughter, a few years older, stood with her arms crossed, dead serious as she pointed at a box of colorful cereal. The woman, their mother, let out a sigh that was more amused than frustrated. "Fine," she said, giving in, her lips curving into a smile so warm that I forgot what I'd come into the store for. That smile didn't just reach her lips, it radiated all the way to her eyes, softening her tiredness into something heartbreakingly beautiful. I knew I was staring, but I couldn't help it. She looked like a painting I could never stop admiring. Her hair, a little messy but shining under the store's harsh lights, framed her face in gentle waves. She had the look of someone who carried too much on her shoulders but still somehow walked gracefully, even when juggling chaos. I should have looked away. I should have gone about my business. But instead, I kept glancing until, in my distraction, I managed to bump straight into her cart. The crash wasn't loud, but it jolted me. My cheeks burned instantly. "Oh my God, I'm so sorry." She looked up, and there it was again, that smile. Only this time, it was directed at me. And if I hadn't already been flustered, the sound of her laugh would have finished me off. It was husky but kind, like velvet that had been worn in the best way. "No harm done," she said, her voice steady, grounding. "I think we all bump into each other in this aisle. Too many choices." Her daughter giggled at that, clutching the cereal box triumphantly. Her son, curious, peeked at me from behind the cart before hiding again. "Yeah, I guess so," I managed, fumbling for words. For a moment, she studied me, not in a way that felt invasive, but with a kind of curiosity, like she wasn't used to being seen. Really seen. And I had the strange feeling she noticed me just as much as I noticed her. Then her daughter tugged her hand. "Mommy, can we go now?" Mommy. The word hit me harder than it should have. She wasn't just a beautiful stranger, she was a mother. A woman whose world revolved around 2 little souls, who depended on her completely. And me? I was just someone in her 20s, wandering through life, trying to figure out who I was and what I wanted. Still, as I watched her walk away, her kids skipping beside her, I felt something stir deep inside me. Something reckless. Something hopeful. A voice inside whispered, "Don't let this end here." I didn't expect to see her again. Honestly, I thought that fleeting grocery store moment would remain nothing more than a random spark in the middle of an ordinary day. But life has a strange way of weaving paths together, especially when you least expect it. It happened a week later at the little cafe down the street from my apartment, the one with chalkboard menus and too many succulents in mismatched pots. I was hunched over my laptop, pretending to work but mostly nursing a cappuccino, when I felt someone step up to the counter beside me. Her voice was unmistakable. Low, soft, a little rushed. "Can I get a caramel latte, please? And a hot chocolate, extra marshmallows." I turned, and there she was. Same messy waves of hair, same aura of quiet strength and exhaustion, but this time without the rush of grocery aisles or shopping carts. She wore jeans and a loose sweater, nothing remarkable, yet she carried it like it was enough to take the air right out of the room. I must have stared too long because she caught me. Her lips curved into a small, knowing smile. "Hey, cereal aisle girl, right?" My heart tripped over itself. Yeah. That was me. "And you're the one who gave in to the rainbow sugar cereal." She laughed, a soft, musical sound that made my chest feel warm. Guilty. My kids would never forgive me if I hadn't. Kids. There it was again, that reminder that she wasn't just any woman. She was a mother. A whole life came with her. And yet, the way she leaned on the counter, her gaze flickering toward me like she was debating something, told me she was more than just that role too. "I didn't catch your name last time," she said. It's Claire, I answered, trying to sound casual even though my pulse was racing. And yours? Isabella, she said, offering her hand. Her grip was warm, firm, but lingered a second longer than polite. My stomach flipped. We found ourselves sliding into small talk that didn't feel small at all. She told me her kids were with their grandmother for the afternoon, giving her a rare slice of freedom. I confessed I came here too often just for the excuse of good coffee. It was easy, natural, like we'd known each other far longer than a couple of accidental encounters. Before I knew it, her drinks were ready. She hesitated, glancing at me like she wasn't ready to leave. Well, Claire, maybe I'll see you again, she said, her voice carrying something that sounded like hope. Maybe, I whispered, but inside, I was already certain, I wanted to. As she walked out, balancing her drinks with the same grace I'd first noticed in the grocery store, I couldn't stop the thought that settled deep in my chest. I wanted to know her. Kids and all. The cafe meeting should have ended there, with Isabella walking out and me left replaying her smile in my head. But fate, or maybe something bolder, had other plans. A few days later, I saw her again. This time, she walked into the cafe while I was already seated with a book. Cereal aisle girl, she teased, her caramel latte already in hand. I'm starting to think you live here. I laughed, tucking a strand of hair behind my ear. Maybe I do. It's quieter than home. She hesitated only for a second before sliding into the empty seat across from me. My pulse quickened. She didn't have to sit. She chose to. So, Claire, she said, settling in like it was the most natural thing in the world, tell me about you. Besides your clear love for coffee and bad aim with grocery carts. I grinned. Well, I'm a graphic designer. I work freelance, which mostly means long hours in front of a screen and way too much caffeine. Her eyes lit with curiosity. That sounds creative. Do you like it? I do, I admitted. Though it gets lonely sometimes. What about you? Her face softened, pride and weariness mixing in her expression. I work part-time at a publishing office. But most of my time is spent being mom. She said it lightly, but I could hear the weight behind her words. It's a lot. Beautiful, exhausting, wonderful, a mix of everything. There was a pause. I didn't know if it was okay to ask, but the word slipped out anyway. And their dad? Her lips pressed together before she answered. He's not in the picture. Hasn't been for years. It's just me and them. She shrugged, trying to mask the ache. But I wouldn't trade it. Something about the way she said it made my chest ache. Strength wrapped in vulnerability, it was magnetic. I wanted to tell her I admired her. I wanted to say she deserved more than the weight she carried alone. Instead, I just smiled softly. They're lucky to have you. Her gaze caught mine then, holding it a beat longer than polite. Something unspoken passed between us, and for a moment, the background noise of the cafe faded away. I don't usually do this, Isabella said, her voice dropping lower. Sit with strangers, I mean. But with you, it feels easy. My breath caught. The air between us shifted, warmer, charged. I swallowed hard, willing myself to play it cool even as my heart hammered. I'm glad you did, I whispered. She smiled, and in that smile was something that made my stomach twist with anticipation. For the first time in a long while, I felt like I wasn't just passing through someone's day. I felt seen. And maybe, just maybe, she felt the same. The next time we met, it wasn't by accident. Isabella had texted me. Yes, texted me. After our second cafe encounter, she'd surprised me by asking for my number. Just in case I need another excuse for coffee, she'd said with a playful smile. Now, here we were, strolling down the tree-lined street just a block away from the cafe. It was late afternoon, golden sunlight filtering through the leaves, the kind of day that made everything feel softer, easier. I don't get much time like this, she admitted, her hands tucked into her sweater sleeves. Just being a woman, not just a mom. Sometimes I forget there's more to me than laundry and school pickups. I glanced at her, struck by the honesty in her voice. You deserve moments like this. Everyone does. Especially you. She smiled, faint but grateful. You say that like you know me already. Maybe I want to, I said, a little bolder than I meant to. The words hung between us, heavy but thrilling. She looked at me then, really looked, her gaze searching mine like she was weighing a choice. For a second, I thought she might pull away, but instead, she slowed her pace, letting the silence stretch. You're different, she finally said softly. I don't know how to explain it, but being around you feels uncomplicated. Safe. My heart flipped. Safe. The word meant more than beautiful, more than attractive. Safe meant trust. Safe meant the possibility of something real. We walked on, shoulders brushing now and then, each accidental touch sparking something that lingered longer than it should have. I found myself memorizing the curve of her lips, the way the wind tugged at her hair, the quiet strength in the way she carried herself. We reached the park, where children's laughter echoed faintly from the playground in the distance. She stopped, watching them for a moment, her face softening. Sometimes I wonder if I'm doing enough, she murmured. Being both parents, making sure they never feel like they're missing something. Without thinking, I reached for her hand. The gesture was small, instinctive, but the moment our fingers touched, her breath caught. For a heartbeat, she didn't move, then slowly, she let her hand settle in mine. You're more than enough, I said quietly. I can see it, even if you can't always. Her eyes shimmered, and she gave my hand the faintest squeeze. It was nothing, and yet it was everything. The sun dipped lower, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. We walked together, hand in hand, as if it was the most natural thing in the world. And though neither of us said it out loud, we both knew something had shifted. This wasn't just a spark anymore. It was a fire waiting to grow. It started as a casual suggestion. You should come over sometime, Isabella said one afternoon as we lingered outside the cafe. Not for anything fancy, just dinner. The kids would like you. My chest tightened at the invitation. Meeting her children felt like stepping into her world in a way that went beyond small talk and coffee dates. But the warmth in her voice left me no room for doubt. I said yes. That Friday evening, I stood at her doorstep, a bottle of wine in hand and nerves buzzing through me. She opened the door, and the sight of her in a simple dress, hair pulled back loosely, nearly knocked the air out of my lungs. She looked softer at home, comfortable, radiant in a way no cafe light could capture. Inside, her kids greeted me with curious eyes and shy smiles. Emma, the older one, proudly showed me her drawing collection, while Noah tugged at my sleeve, eager to share his favorite toy car. Isabella watched it all with a mixture of amusement and something I couldn't quite name. Dinner was simple, pasta, garlic bread, a tossed salad, but it felt like a feast because of the company. The table buzzed with laughter, Emma correcting her brother's stories, Noah spilling juice, Isabella rolling her eyes with the patience only a mother could have. And me? I was enchanted. Not just by her, but by this little universe she'd built out of love and resilience. When the kids were tucked into bed later, Isabella and I stayed in the living room with our wine. The house felt quieter, more intimate, like it was holding its breath. You're good with them, she said softly, curling her legs beneath her on the couch. Not everyone is. I shrugged, my cheeks warming. They're amazing. You've raised them well. Her eyes softened, and for a moment, silence filled the space. Not awkward, but heavy, charged. I set my glass down, heart pounding. She was close, so close I could see the faint freckles across her nose, the curve of her lips. The air between us shifted, thick with something unspoken. Claire, she murmured, her voice low, almost hesitant. Yes? My own voice was barely a whisper. Her gaze flicked to my lips, then back to my eyes. My pulse quickened. Was she thinking the same thing I was? Was this the moment? The tension crackled, sharp and sweet. I leaned in, just slightly, holding my breath. For a second, it felt inevitable, the kind of moment where two people finally stop resisting and just fall. But then, she pulled back, exhaling shakily. I can't, she said, almost to herself. Not yet. My chest ached, but I forced a gentle smile. It's okay. Her hand lingered near mine, close enough to brush, not quite touching. Thank you, she whispered, eyes glistening. For understanding. And even though the kiss didn't happen, the electricity between us told me it wasn't over. It was only the beginning. For days after that almost kiss, I couldn't stop replaying the moment. The way her eyes had lingered on mine, the way her breath had caught, it was all the confirmation I needed that she felt something too. But I also understood the hesitation. She wasn't just a woman navigating desire, she was a mother balancing the weight of responsibility. When she texted me midweek, "Want to come by again? Kids will be at their friend's house tonight," my heart skipped a beat. This invitation was different. It felt deliberate, like she'd decided to let me a little closer. I arrived with takeout, and we ended up sitting cross-legged on her living room floor, cartons of Thai food scattered between us. Conversation flowed easily, laughter echoing off the walls as we shared stories, my embarrassing high school crushes, her disastrous attempts at baking birthday cakes. It felt light, but beneath it was something deeper, trust slowly unfurling. After dinner, she leaned back against the couch, sipping her wine. Her gaze lingered on me longer than usual. You make it easy to forget the hard stuff, she said softly. I set my glass down, inching closer. Maybe you don't always have to carry it alone. Her eyes shimmered, vulnerability breaking through. I'm afraid, she admitted. Afraid of letting someone in. Afraid of what it means for me, and for them. I reached for her hand, my thumb brushing over her knuckles. You don't have to have all the answers. Just, start with this moment. Her breath caught, and for a heartbeat, the silence between us was heavy, alive. Then, slowly, she leaned forward. This time, she didn't stop herself. Her lips met mine in a kiss that was soft at first, hesitant, like testing the waters. But when I cupped her cheek and deepened it, she sighed into me, all the tension of weeks melting away. It wasn't just a kiss, it was a confession, a release, a promise of everything we'd both been holding back. When we finally broke apart, her forehead rested against mine. Her voice was a whisper, raw and real. I haven't kissed anyone in years. My chest tightened, not with pity, but with awe. Then I'm honored. She smiled, small and trembling but radiant. And as I held her hand in mine, I realized something undeniable, this wasn't just attraction. It wasn't just a spark. It was the start of something real. The kiss changed everything. Suddenly, the air between us was charged in ways neither of us could deny. Every glance lingered, every brush of her hand against mine set my skin alight. But it also made things more complicated. Isabella wasn't just dating me, she was opening her life, one already overflowing with responsibility, to something uncertain and new. In the days that followed, we carved out moments where we could. Afternoon walks, stolen coffees, whispered phone calls after the kids were asleep. Each time, the connection grew deeper. One evening, I stopped by after dinner. Emma and Noah were sprawled on the floor building a Lego castle while Isabella and I shared the couch. Every so often, Noah would run over to show me his progress, and Emma would call me over to help her with the really tricky parts. Their easy acceptance of me made my heart ache in the best way. Later, after bedtime stories and goodnight kisses, Isabella returned to the living room. She sank beside me with a sigh, her body leaning just enough that our shoulders touched. They like you, she murmured, almost as if it surprised her. I turned to her, smiling. I like them too. Her eyes softened, but there was a shadow of worry there. That's what scares me. The more you're in their lives, the more I worry about what happens if this doesn't last. I reached for her hand, intertwining our fingers. I can't promise the future. But I can promise I'm not here for just a passing fling. I want to know you, all of you. The woman, the mother, the whole picture. Her gaze met mine, and something in her expression shifted, fear giving way to trust. She leaned in, kissing me again, this time with a hunger that spoke of longing and release. The kiss deepened, her hand sliding to my waist, pulling me closer. I melted into her, the world falling away until it was just us, breathless and trembling in each other's arms. When we finally pulled apart, her cheeks were flushed, her eyes shining. "Claire," she whispered, her voice thick with emotion, "I don't know how I got here, but I don't want to run from it anymore." I pressed my forehead against hers. "Then don't. Let's take it one step at a time. Together." She exhaled, a shaky but genuine smile curving her lips. For the first time since I'd met her, it felt like she was allowing herself to hope. And in that quiet, fragile moment, I realized just how much I wanted to be the person she could count on, not just in the easy times, but in the messy, complicated, beautiful chaos of her life. Weeks turned into months, and what began as chance meetings grew into something I could no longer imagine living without. Isabella and I learned each other in layers, her patience, her stubbornness, the way she hummed absent-mindedly when cooking, the softness she tried to hide beneath her strength. But love, real love, isn't without its storms. One night, after the kids had gone to bed, she sat me down on the couch, her expression tight with worry. "Claire," she began, her voice low, "I need to ask you something. Are you sure you want this? Me, my kids, all of it. Because this isn't simple. It's not just dates and kisses, it's homework and tantrums, late nights, and responsibilities I can't put aside for anyone." Her words cut deep, not because I doubted us, but because I could see how heavily she carried that fear. She wasn't just guarding her own heart, she was protecting her children's too. I reached for her hand, holding it firmly. "Isabella. I knew from the moment I saw you in that grocery store that you weren't simple. And I don't want simple. I want you. All of you. The laughter, the chaos, the kids, the hard days and the good ones. I'm here because I choose this, because I choose you." Her eyes shimmered, and a tear slipped free before she could brush it away. "You don't know how long I've waited to hear something like that." I cupped her face in my hands, my thumb stroking her cheek. "Then let yourself believe it. Because I'm not going anywhere." She kissed me then, not tentative or hesitant, but with a fierce, hungry certainty. It was the kiss of a woman who had finally decided to let herself be loved. From then on, things changed, not in grand, dramatic ways, but in the quiet, beautiful details of everyday life. Sunday mornings spent making pancakes while Noah and Emma argued about toppings. Movie nights where Isabella and I sat side by side, her hand finding mine under the blanket. Bedtime stories where Emma would insist I do the silly voices, and Isabella would watch from the doorway, smiling softly like she couldn't quite believe this was real. One evening, as we tucked the kids in, Emma looked up at me with sleepy eyes. "Are you gonna stay with Mommy forever?" she asked innocently. Isabella froze, but I smiled and kissed Emma's forehead. "If she'll have me, then yes." Later, after the kids had drifted to sleep, Isabella curled against me on the couch, her head resting on my shoulder. Her whisper was barely audible, but it carried more weight than anything she'd ever said. "She has kids, and she chose you anyway." I kissed the crown of her head, my heart overflowing. "No, Isabella. You chose me. And I'll keep choosing you, every day." And in that moment, surrounded by the love she'd built and the love we were building together, I knew, we weren't just a story. We were a family.